Chaos erupted outside the Ohio police station, sirens screaming as a crowd pressed against barricades. Maya Carter, a fierce black woman with a battle-scarred cheek, stood alone on a makeshift stage, clutching a megaphone. "I bled for this country," she roared, her voice slicing through the noise. "But you'd rather shoot me than shake my hand." The scar from Iraq burned under flashing cameras, a raw testament to her survival. The crowd chanted, "Maya! Maya!" as a cop's hand hovered over his gun, eyes narrowing. A kid's livestream caught it all, the scar blazing like a war cry. Hashtag Maya Stands exploded online, a spark igniting a firestorm. As tear gas canisters clinked on the pavement, Maya didn't budge. She'd stared down death before, but could her truth outshine their fear? The answer hung in the smoke-filled air, ready to detonate. The sun dipped low over Willow Creek, Ohio, painting the sky in streaks of orange and pink. The small town, nestled between cornfields and quiet cul-de-sacs, hid its tensions beneath a veneer of neighborly smiles. Kids rode bikes past picket fences and retirees sipped lemonade on porches, but whispers of outsiders lingered in the air like dust. At 32, Maya Carter stood out, not just for her striking beauty, with deep brown eyes and a presence that commanded attention, but for the jagged scars slicing across her left cheek, a memento from a roadside bomb in Iraq. She'd grown up in Cleveland's roughest neighborhood, raised by a single mother who scrubbed floors to put food on the table. Now, Maya owned a modest brick house on Maple Lane, bought with years of sweat and sacrifice. It was her sanctuary, a testament to her climb from poverty to pride. Maya was no stranger to hard fights. As a Marine sergeant, she'd led her squad through chaos, her voice steady even as bullets flew. Her knack for rallying people, soldiers, civilians, anyone, made her a natural leader. Back home, she channeled that fire into her community, organizing events to bridge gaps in a town where some still clutched old prejudices. Today, she was hosting a barbecue to celebrate the anniversary of buying her home. The backyard buzzed with laughter. Kids chased fireflies, neighbors swapped stories, and ribs sizzled on the grill. Maya wore a simple sundress, her scar catching the golden light as she flipped burgers, her smile warm but guarded. Her younger sister Jasmine, 22, was a law student with a firebrand spirit, snapping photos for her Instagram. "You're glowing, sis," Jasmine said, zooming in on Maya's face. "This is what winning looks like." Maya laughed, brushing off the compliment, but her heart swelled. Jasmine was her reason to keep going, the one she'd promised their late mother she'd protect. Across the yard, Mr. Thomas, a grizzled white retiree with a limp from his factory days, sipped sweet tea. Once skeptical of Maya, he'd warmed to her after she helped fix his roof during a storm. "Good ribs, Maya," he called, raising his glass. She nodded, grateful for his change of heart. But not everyone was so open. Karen Lee, a wealthy widow with a manicured lawn and a sharp tongue, watched from her porch across the street. Her eyes narrowed at the crowd, too diverse, too loud for her liking. Karen, in her late 50s, prided herself on keeping the neighborhood safe, a code for her quiet biases. She'd never spoken to Maya, only stared, as if Maya's presence in a nice house was an affront. As the barbecue hit its peak, with music floating and kids squealing, Karen dialed 911. "There's a suspicious woman at 23 Maple Lane," she whispered, voice clipped. "Big crowd, probably trouble. You need to check it out." Maya, oblivious, tossed a frisbee to a neighbor's kid, her scar catching the last rays of sunlight. Jasmine posted a photo of the scene with the caption, "Family, food, and freedom. This is home." The post racked up likes, but trouble was already rolling in. Sirens wailed in the distance, faint but growing louder like a storm about to break. Maya's marine instincts kicked in. She paused, scanning the street. Mr. Thomas caught her eye, his brow furrowing. "You hear that?" he asked. Maya nodded, her smile fading. The laughter in the yard quieted as two police cruisers screeched to a stop, lights flashing. The crowd froze, eyes darting to Maya. She straightened, her heart thumping, but her face calm. Whatever was coming, she'd faced worse. Or so she thought. The sirens cut through the warm Ohio evening like a blade, silencing the laughter in Maya Carter's backyard. The two police cruisers blocked Maple Lane, their red and blue lights pulsing like a heartbeat. Neighbors clutched paper plates, ribs forgotten, as four officers spilled out, hands on holsters. Maya stood by the grill, her sundress fluttering in the breeze, the scar on her cheek stark under the fading sunlight. Her marine instincts sharpened. She scanned the officers' faces, hard, suspicious, already judging.
Jasmine, phone in hand, started live streaming, her voice low but urgent. "This is happening right now, my sister's own house." The lead officer, a wiry man in his 40s with a buzz cut and a badge reading Officer Holt, strode toward Maya. "Ma'am, we got a call about a disturbance. Step away from the grill. Show us ID and proof you live here." His tone carried an edge, like she was already guilty. The crowd murmured, some stepping back, others inching closer. Mr. Thomas, leaning on his cane, muttered, "This ain't right." Maya's heart pounded, but her face stayed calm, a skill honed in war zones. "This is my home," she said, voice steady. "Maya Carter, Marine veteran. My deed's inside. This is a barbecue, not a crime scene." She gestured to the yard, kids frozen mid-game, neighbors staring. Holt smirked, unimpressed. "Veteran, huh? Nice story. ID, now." His partner, a younger officer with nervous eyes, gripped his radio, glancing at the crowd. Jasmine's live streaming was picking up viewers, hundreds, then thousands. Comments flooded in. "This is BS. She's in her own yard." Maya reached slowly for her wallet, pulling out her driver's license and veteran ID. The scar on her cheek seemed to pulse under Holt's stare. "Here," she said, holding them out. Holt barely glanced at the IDs, tossing them back. "Doesn't prove you own this place. We need the deed." His voice dripped with skepticism, as if a black woman couldn't possibly belong here.
Maya's jaw tightened. She remembered her mother's words, "Don't let them see you break." But the sting of being questioned in her own yard burned deeper than any battlefield wound. "My name's on the mailbox," she said, pointing to the engraved Carter on the post. Holt didn't look. Instead, he stepped closer, hand still on his holster. "Don't get smart. We're doing our job." The crowd grew restless. A teenager shouted, "Leave her alone!" Jasmine's phone shook slightly, but she kept filming, whispering, #MayaStands. The hashtag caught fire online, views climbing into the tens of thousands. Mr. Thomas hobbled forward, voice gruff. "I've known Maya for years. She owns this house. You're embarrassing yourselves." Holt shot him a look, but didn't budge. Maya's mind raced. She could de-escalate. She'd done it under gunfire. But the sting of being questioned in her own yard burned deeper than any battlefield wound. "My name's on the mailbox," she said, turning toward the house. Holt grabbed her arm. "Not so fast!" The crowd gasped, and Jasmine's voice cracked on the live stream. "They're touching her!" Maya froze, her training kicking in. She didn't pull away, didn't raise her voice. "Let go," she said, eyes locked on Holt's. Her calm was a weapon, sharper than any shout. He released her, but the tension hung thick. The younger officer muttered into his radio, "Possible escalation." Maya's heart sank. This wasn't just about her anymore. The kids watching, wide-eyed, the neighbors clutching their phones. This was about every time someone was judged before they could speak. As she stepped toward the house, deed in her sights, a car door slammed across the street. Karen Lee stood on her porch, arms crossed, watching with a smug nod. Maya's eyes met hers, and for a moment, the world narrowed to that stare. Karen's entitlement against Maya's defiance. The sirens still wailed, the crowd still buzzed, and Jasmine's live stream kept rolling. #MayaStands was no longer just a hashtag, it was a battle cry. But Maya knew this was only the beginning. The real fight was coming, and she'd need more than a deed to win it. The night air in Willow Creek thickened with unease as the police cruisers peeled away, their sirens fading into the distance. Maya Carter stood in her doorway, clutching the deed to her house, its crisp edges digging into her palm. The barbecue was over, neighbors dispersing with hushed apologies, their eyes avoiding hers. Jasmine sat on the porch steps, phone still glowing with the live stream that had racked up over 1 million views in hours. "They're calling you a hero, sis," she said, scrolling through comments. #MayaStands is everywhere. Maya's scar itched under the porch light, a reminder of battles past, but this fight felt different, raw, personal, and far from over. By morning, the video had gone global. News vans clogged Maple Lane, reporters shouting questions as Maya stepped outside for her coffee run. "Ms. Carter, was this racial profiling?" A microphone jabbed toward her. She shielded her face, the scar catching camera flashes like a lightning rod. On X, #MayaStands trended alongside vitriol. She's a fraud. Go back where you came from. The hashtag was a double-edged sword, amplifying her truth but painting a target on her back. At the diner, locals whispered, some nodding in support, others glaring. A young barista slipped Maya a free coffee with a note. "You're not alone." But the threats came fast. That afternoon, a brick shattered her living room window, a note taped to it, "Leave or else." Jasmine screamed, dropping her textbook, while Maya's marine training kicked in. She swept the glass, her hands steady, but her heart racing. "We're not running," she told Jasmine, voice firm. But doubt gnawed at her. Was this fight worth risking her sister's safety? Her mother's voice echoed, "Don't let them see you break." Yet the scar on her cheek felt heavier, a mark of survival, now tainted by fear. The community split like a fault line. Mr. Thomas organized a neighborhood watch to protect Maya's house, his gruff voice rallying old-timers. "She's one of us," he said, cane tapping the pavement. But Karen Lee doubled down, hosting a safety meeting at her house, where whispers of troublemakers and property values floated through open windows. Her allies, mostly older white residents, nodded along, their fear of change outweighing reason. Maya overheard a snippet walking past. "She doesn't belong here." The words stung, but she kept moving, head high. Jasmine's activism fueled the fire. She posted updates on X, rallying supporters to flood Willow Creek's town hall meeting. "We're not letting this slide," she told Maya, eyes blazing. But Maya hesitated. The threats weren't just words now. Someone had slashed her tires overnight. She'd faced insurgents in Iraq, but this was her home, where she dreamed of peace. The scar burned under her fingertips as she traced it, remembering the explosion that nearly took her life. Could she survive this war? The media frenzy grew. A national talk show invited Maya, promising to tell her story. She declined, wary of being a prop. But the pressure mounted as strangers showed up at a door. Activists, supporters, even a documentary crew. One night she found a letter slipped under her mat, unsigned. "You're inspiring my daughter. Keep standing." It was a flicker of hope, but the darkness loomed larger. On X, a doctored photo of Maya in handcuffs spread, captioned, "Criminal, not hero." The lie stung worse than the brick. At the town hall, the crowd overflowed, signs reading "Justice for Maya" clashing with "Back the Blue." Maya sat in the back, scar hidden under a hoodie, listening as Karen spoke, her voice syrupy with concern. "I just wanted safety for our neighborhood," she said, earning nods from her clique. Jasmine live-streamed again, whispering, "She's lying." The hashtag surged, views hitting 10 million. Maya's phone buzzed with threats, "Watch your back." She gripped the armrest, her calm cracking. This wasn't just about her deed anymore, it was about her existence. As she left the hall, a kid no older than 12 ran up, marker in hand. "Can I draw your scar?" he asked, holding up a sketch of Maya's face, fierce and unyielding. She froze, then nodded, letting him trace the jagged line on paper. The gesture pierced her armor, a reminder of why she couldn't quit. But across the street, Karen watched, phone in hand, already dialing. The storm was growing, and Maya's truth was about to face its fiercest test. The Willow Creek Town Hall meeting dissolved into chaos, voices clashing like thunder. Maya Carter sat in the back, hoodie pulled low, her scar hidden but throbbing under the fluorescent lights. The air was thick with anger, protesters chanting "Justice for Maya" outside, while inside, Karen Lee's supporters clapped for her neighborhood safety speech. Jasmine's livestream, now at 15 million views, buzzed with #MayaStands comments. "She's a hero. This town's a disgrace." Maya's phone vibrated with another threat. "You're done." She clenched her fists, the weight of the fight pressing harder. She'd faced death in Iraq, but this, being a target in her own town, felt like a betrayal of everything she'd fought for. Jasmine, eyes blazing, leaned over. "We've got something," she whispered, sliding her phone to Maya. A local journalist, digging into public records, had unearthed a bombshell. Karen Lee had filed complaints against 2 other black families in Willow Creek, forcing one to sell their home after a similar suspicious activity call. More damning, Sheriff Evans' son was married to Karen's niece, tying their families in a knot of influence. The journalist's email, forwarded by a friend, revealed Evans had buried a report from 3 years ago, a black teenager wrongly arrested after Karen's 911 call. The pattern was undeniable. This wasn't just one bad call, it was a system protecting its own. Maya's breath caught, her scar burning as if the shrapnel was still lodged there. She'd thought Karen was just a nosy neighbor, Evans just a biased cop. Now she saw the truth, a web of power shielding prejudice. The deed in her pocket felt like a flimsy shield against a machine. Her mind flashed to Iraq, leading her squad through a sandstorm, trusting her gut to survive. That same gut told her now this fight was bigger than her house, her scar, her story. It was about every black family in Willow Creek, every kid watching her on X, every voice silenced by fear. Jasmine grabbed her arm. "We need to go public," she urged, her law student fire burning. This could change everything. But Maya hesitated. The brick through her window was still fresh in her mind. Exposing Karen and Evans would light a match in a town already smoldering. She pictured Jasmine's face, her mother's voice, "Protect her." Yet the unsigned letter from a stranger, "You're inspiring my daughter," echoed louder. She couldn't stay silent, not when the truth could break chains. The hall doors burst open. A group of activists, led by a young woman with a megaphone, stormed in, chanting, "No justice, no peace." The crowd erupted, some cheering, others shouting back. Karen's face paled, her safety speech forgotten. Evans, standing by the podium, barked orders into his radio, his eyes darting to Maya. She stood, pulling off her hoodie, letting her scar blaze under the lights. The room quieted for a split second, the live stream catching every angle. Hashtag Maya Stands spiked to 20 million views. Maya stepped forward, her voice low but cutting. "I'm not here to fight," she said, addressing the room. "I'm here to live, but you won't let me. Not Karen, not you, Sheriff." She pointed at Evans, whose jaw tightened. The journalist's email burned in her pocket. She could expose them now, but the crowd was a powder keg. One wrong word could spark violence. Her Marine training screamed, "De-escalate," but her heart roared, "Speak." She chose a middle path. "Tomorrow, I'll tell the world what I know, not for me, for everyone who's been run out of this town." The room exploded in cheers and boos, phones flashing like a storm. Jasmine's live stream shook as she whispered, "She's doing it!" Outside, protesters pressed against the doors, their signs a sea of defiance. Mr. Thomas, in the front row, nodded slowly, his cane steady. Karen slipped out the back, her phone clutched tight. As Maya left the hall, the kid from the night before ran up, holding his sketch of her scar. "It's on X now," he said, grinning. "Everyone's drawing it." Maya's throat tightened. Her scar, once a wound, was now a symbol. But the truth she held was a grenade, and pulling the pin would change everything. Could it dismantle a system, or would it burn her world down? The answer waited in the fire of tomorrow's fight.
The morning sun blazed over Willow Creek's town square, where a makeshift stage stood draped in red, white, and blue bunting, a nod to the 4th of July, now repurposed for Maya Carter's stand. Hundreds gathered, their signs bobbing like waves, "Justice for Maya" and "The Bias." Cameras from CNN and local stations lined up, their lenses trained on Maya as she stepped onto the stage, her scar stark against her brown skin. Jasmine stood beside her, clutching a folder of evidence, her live stream pushing hashtag Maya Stands past 30 million views. Maya's heart thundered, but her voice was steel. "We're not here to tear this town apart," she said, gripping the microphone. "We're here for the truth." She held up the journalist's email, its words projected on a screen behind her. Karen Lee's complaints against black families, Sheriff Evans' cover-up of a wrongful arrest, their family ties. The crowd gasped, then roared, a mix of outrage and support. "This isn't one mistake," Maya said, eyes sweeping the sea of faces. "It's a system that says I don't belong in my own home." Her scar caught the sunlight, a jagged line of defiance as phones recorded every word. On X, hashtag Maya Stands surged, with artists sharing sketches of her scar, now a global symbol. Karen Lee watched from the edge of the square, her face tight, flanked by a small group of supporters holding "Support Our Sheriff" signs. Sheriff Evans stood near the police station, his radio crackling, his expression unreadable. Maya's words cut deeper. "I served this country, blood for it, and came home to build a life, but you, Karen, Sheriff Evans, decided I'm a threat before I could even speak." The crowd cheered, but tension simmered. A group of counter-protesters, egged on by Karen's allies, shouted, "Go home!" A bottle sailed through the air, shattering near the stage. Maya didn't flinch. Her Marine training kicked in, eyes scanning for threats. Jasmine whispered, "They're losing it." The crowd surged, some pushing toward the counter-protesters, fists clenched. Maya raised a hand, her voice booming. "We don't fight hate with hate. We stand together." Her voice slowed the chaos, but only just. Mr. Thomas, near the front, waved his cane, shouting, "Listen to her!" His voice, weathered but fierce, carried weight, calming a few.
Then a spark. A counter-protester shoved a young activist, and the crowd erupted. Fists flew, signs toppled, and cameras swarmed. Evans barked into his radio, calling for backup. Maya's stomach twisted. She'd seen riots in war zones, knew how fast they spiraled. She stepped to the edge of the stage, her scar blazing under the sun. "Stop!" she shouted, her voice a command forged in battle. Some froze, others didn't. A teenager, eyes wide, live-streamed the chaos. #MayaStands now trending worldwide. Maya leapt off the stage, landing between two brawling groups. "Enough!" she roared, her presence a wall. Her scar seemed to glow, a beacon in the madness. She grabbed a megaphone from Jasmine, her voice cutting through the noise. "We're better than this. Willow Creek is our home. Don't let them take it." The crowd hesitated, some stepping back. Evans watched, his hand on his holster, torn between duty and shame. Karen's group retreated, her face pale as the tide turned. The police line advanced, batons ready, but Maya stood firm, her scar a silent challenge. "We want justice, not blood," she said, locking eyes with Evans. The crowd chanted her name, a rhythm that drowned out the chaos. Jasmine's live stream captured it all, the scar now a rallying cry. Protesters linked arms, forming a human chain, their signs raised high. Maya's heart pounded. She'd stopped a fight, but the war was far from won. Karen slipped away, phone in hand, plotting her rebuttal. Evans' radio crackled, his daughter's voice on the line. "Dad, do the right thing." Maya didn't hear it, but she saw his face shift, just for a moment. The Willow Creek town square pulsed with fragile hope as the human chain of protesters held strong, their signs aloft under the midday sun. Maya Carter stood at the stage's edge, her scar a beacon of resolve, sweat beading on her brow. The crowd's chants of justice for Maya echoed, but the air crackled with danger. Sheriff Evans' police line stood rigid, batons gleaming, while Jasmine's live stream pushed #MayaStands to 40 million views, the scar now a global icon. Maya's voice lingered from her call for dialogue, but the square felt like a battlefield waiting to ignite. Then chaos struck. A group of extremists, masked, wielding pipes and Molotov cocktails, surged from a side street shouting slurs and "Take our town back!" They smashed a news van's window, flames licking the pavement as a cocktail exploded. The crowd screamed, scattering, the human chain buckling. Maya's marine instinct snapped awake. She'd seen ambushes in Iraq, knew the panic that followed. "Stay together," she shouted, leaping off the stage, her scar blazing under the smoke. Jasmine's livestream shook, live-streaming the inferno, #MayaStands trending as a war cry. The extremists charged the protesters, pipes swinging. A young activist fell, blood streaking his face. Maya sprinted toward him, dodging a thrown bottle, her training guiding every move. She pulled him behind a barricade, barking, "Stay down!" The crowd teetered on the edge of a riot, some grabbing debris to fight back. Evans' officers raised shields, tear gas canisters ready, but Maya knew gas would crush the protest spirit. She grabbed a megaphone, her voice a thunderclap. "Don't fight them. Sing." Her words pierced the chaos. A protester, an older black woman, started humming, "This Little Loud of Mine," her voice trembling but clear. Others joined, the melody rising over the extremist shouts. Maya led the charge, standing between the clashing groups, her scar a defiant shield. "Link arms," she commanded. And the protesters obeyed, their song drowning out the hate. The extremists faltered, their momentum broken by the unexpected harmony. Jasmine's livestream captured it, the scar glowing through the smoke. #Maya stands, a beacon of hope.
But the danger wasn't over. An extremist lobbed another Molotov, flames grazing Maya's arm. She didn't flinch, her eyes locking on Evans across the square. His daughter's voice from his radio haunted him. Do the right thing. Maya saw his hesitation, the crack in his armor. She strode through the chaos, protesters parting like a sea, and faced him, scar unyielding. You have a daughter, she said, voice low but fierce. You want her to grow up in a world where this, she gestured to the flames, the hate, is normal? Evans' jaw clenched, his hand hovering over his baton. The crowd held its breath. Phones flashing, live streams immortalizing the moment. Maya didn't back down. You buried that boy's arrest. You let caring run people out. End it now, or we all lose. Her words hit like shrapnel, echoing her Iraq days when she'd rallied soldiers under fire. Evans' eyes flickered to his officers, then to the extremists still swinging pipes. His daughter's voice rang in his head again. He made his choice. Stand down, Evans barked to his men, raising a hand. The police lowered their shields, batons dropping. To the extremists, he shouted, You're under arrest. His officers moved, cuffing the masked attackers as the crowd cheered, a wave of relief washing over the square. Maya's scar seemed to pulse, a mark of victory, as Jasmine's livestream exploded with comments. She did it. #Maya stands forever. Protesters hugged, tears mixing with sweat, their song still ringing. Evans faced Maya, his voice gruff but honest. This doesn't fix everything. She nodded, her scar silent agreement. It's a start. The square settled, flames dying out. The extremists hauled away. Mr. Thomas hobbled over, cane tapping, his eyes wet. You saved us, Maya. She shook her head, pointing to the crowd. They did. But the fight wasn't over. Karen was gone, her absence a shadow, and the town's wounds ran deep. As Maya helped the injured activist to his feet, she knew the real work, rebuilding, loomed. The live stream faded, but #Maya stands burned brighter, a call to keep fighting.
The smoke cleared from Willow Creek's town square, leaving a quiet that felt both fragile and heavy. Maya Carter stood among the scattered signs and broken glass, her scar softened by the late afternoon light. The extremists were gone, cuffed and loaded into police vans, their hate silenced for now. The crowd lingered, some hugging, others wiping tears, their voices humming the fading notes of This Little Light of Mine. Jasmine's livestream, still live, had plateaued at 45 million views. #Maya stands, a global anthem. Maya's arms stung from the Molotov burn, but her heart carried a new weight. The fight had shifted from survival to healing. Sheriff Evans approached, his badge glinting, his face etched with exhaustion. We're setting up a community forum, he said, voice low. Tomorrow at the community center. Will you come? Maya studied him, the man who'd once buried a boy's truth. His daughter's call had cracked his shell, and her words, you want her to grow up in this world, still lingered. I'll be there, Maya said, her scar a quiet testament to her resolve. But this time, you listen. The next evening, the John Muir Community Center buzzed with nervous energy. Folding chairs lined the room filled with faces, black, white, young, old, some skeptical, others hopeful. Maya sat in the front row, Jasmine beside her, Mr. Thomas on her other side, his cane resting against his knee. Sheriff Evans approached, his badge glinting, his face etched with exhaustion. We're setting up a community forum, he began, voice low. What happened to Miss Carter was wrong. We failed her and others before her. We're implementing new protocols, checking property records before any stop. We're calling it the Maya Rule. The room murmured, some nodding, others crossing arms.
Karen Lee slipped in late, her face pale, no longer flanked by her usual allies. She stood at the back, eyes darting as if expecting a fight. Maya noticed her, but said nothing, her scar calm under the soft lights. A young woman, the activist injured in the protest, stood to speak. I saw Maya stop a riot with a song, she said, voice trembling. She's why I'm here. Applause rippled and Jasmine squeezed Maya's hand. Then Karen stepped forward, her voice shaky. I was wrong, she said, barely audible. I saw a stranger, not a neighbor. I'm sorry, Maya. The room fell silent, eyes on Maya. She stood, her presence filling the space. Sorry doesn't erase the past, she said, her scar unhidden, her voice clear. But it's a start. I don't want your guilt. I want you to see me and everyone like me as human. Karen nodded, tears falling, and slipped out, her apology public, but her shame private. The crowd clapped, not for victory, but for truth. Evans added, "We'll train officers on bias, starting next week." Maya met his gaze, seeing not redemption, but a step. The forum stretched into the night, stories pouring out, neighbors sharing fears, regrets, hopes. A black teenager spoke of being followed in stores. A white retiree admitted his silence had enabled bias. Maya listened, her scar a quiet anchor, realizing forgiveness wasn't weakness, it was power. Jasmine whispered, "You changed them, sis." Maya shook her head. "We did." Mr. Thomas leaned over, his voice gruff. "You made us better, kid." His eyes, once skeptical, now shone with pride. Outside, the town felt different. Kids played on Maple Lane, their laughter lighter. A mural of Maya's scar, painted by the 12-year-old artist, appeared on a community wall, captioned #MayaStands. On X, the hashtag still trended with messages from across the globe. "You gave us hope. Keep fighting." The Maya rule spread to nearby towns, a ripple of change. Maya walked home with Jasmine, the evening air cool against her scar. She didn't feel like a hero, just a woman who'd spoken her truth. But as she passed Karen's house, dark and quiet, she knew the work wasn't done. Healing wasn't a moment, it was a promise.
The late summer dusk draped Willow Creek in a golden haze, softening the edges of Maple Lane. Maya Carter sat on her front porch, a glass of iced tea sweating in her hand, her scar catching the last rays of sunlight. Kids pedaled bikes down the street, their laughter mingling with the hum of crickets, a sound that felt like home again. Jasmine sat beside her, scrolling through X, where #MayaStands still trended, now at 50 million views. The mural of Maya's scar, painted by the 12-year-old artist, glowed on the community center wall, its jagged lines a quiet monument to change. Messages poured in from London, Lagos, Tokyo. "Your courage changed me. We stand with you." Maya sipped her tea, her heart full but heavy. She wasn't a hero, just a woman who'd refused to bow. The town had shifted in the weeks since the forum. The Maya rule was now policy in Willow Creek and 3 neighboring counties, forcing police to verify property records before any stop. Sheriff Evans, prodded by his daughter, had started bias training, his gruff demeanor softening at community meetings. Karen Lee's house was up for sale, her absence a silent admission of defeat. Neighbors who once avoided Maya now waved, some stopping to chat, their eyes lingering on her scar with respect, not suspicion. Mr. Thomas hobbled over one evening, his cane tapping rhythmically. "You made us face ourselves, Maya," he said, his voice thick. "That's no small thing." She smiled, touching her scar. "We did it together." Jasmine set her phone down, her law school dreams sharper now. "You're why I'm fighting for justice, sis," she said, her eyes bright. "You showed me what it looks like." Maya pulled her close, remembering their mother's words, "Protect her." She had, but Jasmine had grown into her own warrior. The memory of Iraq flickered. The bomb, the shrapnel, the lives she'd saved. But the scar no longer felt like a wound. It was a badge, a story of survival etched into her skin, now shared by a world that saw her. The community center hosted weekly dialogues where stories of pain and hope continued to spill in. A black teenager, once scared to walk alone, now led discussions. A white shopkeeper apologized for past slights, his voice breaking. Maya attended not as a leader, but as a neighbor, her scar a quiet presence. The mural grew, kids adding their own drawings, hands linked, faces of every shade. On X, #MayaStands inspired protests in other towns, a ripple becoming a wave. A letter arrived from the injured activist, now recovered. "You gave me courage to keep going." Maya tucked it away, her heart swelling. One evening, as fireflies blinked in the yard, Maya stood at the mailbox, tracing the engraved Carter with her finger. The house was hers, not just in deed, but in spirit. She thought of Karen's apology, Evan's concession, the town's slow awakening. Healing wasn't a finish line, it was a road, paved with hard truths and small victories. Mr. Thomas's words from the forum echoed, "Justice isn't a mountain, it's the path we walk together." She'd walked it, scar and all, and the world had watched. As she turned back to the porch, a kid rode by waving a sketch of her scar.
"You're famous, Miss Maya," he shouted, grinning. She laughed, the sound light but grounded. Fame wasn't her goal. Home was. She sat beside Jasmine, the stars emerging above. "What's next, sis?" Jasmine asked. Maya touched her scar, its edges familiar now. "We keep walking." The crickets sang, the mural glowed, and #Maya stands burned on, a light in the dark, promising that truth could still carve a way forward.